I never thought my past as a Navy SEAL would matter in a quiet suburban neighborhood. For years, Sarah and I had worked hard to build a life where war zones, tactical gear, and the smell of desert sand were nothing but memories. We planted flowers, hosted barbecues, and thought the biggest danger we'd ever face again was a nosy neighbor reporting a fence too high. But peace has a way of drawing predators who mistake kindness for weakness. That illusion shattered on an afternoon that began like any other. Sarah was outside watering the garden, humming a tune while our dogs stretched lazily in the sun. That's when she noticed it, the black SUV circling the block. Once could be nothing, twice was suspicious, but 3 times before stopping across the street screamed trouble. Out stepped 3 men, boots pounding the pavement, tactical vests strapped across their chests. Shiny patches reading police glinted in the light. But Sarah had an eye for detail, and what she saw chilled her. No radios. Nylon belts so cheap they could barely hold the fake holsters. Plastic badges flashing like something out of a child's costume set. The tallest of them marched toward her. "Ma'am, HOA compliance inspection," he barked, thrusting forward a badge so flimsy it looked laminated at home. Sarah didn't flinch. She squared her shoulders, water hose still in hand. "Since when does the HOA hire police officers?" she asked. That's when the second man sneered, lips curling with arrogance. "We're not hired, lady. We are the law here." Sarah told them to leave. She warned them they were trespassing, committing a crime by setting foot on our property uninvited. But her words were fuel to their fire. The third stepped closer, hand on the toy baton at his side, trying to loom over her. When she pulled out her phone to record, his hand shot forward, slapping it from her grasp. And then, in a moment, meant so vile it would change everything. He slapped her across the face. That sound, that crack of hand against skin, carried into the garage where I was organizing old gear. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. The calm civilian mask I'd worn for years slipped away, replaced by the steel-hard instincts forged in deployments overseas. I stormed out to find Sarah clutching her cheek, these 3 clowns puffing their chests like they owned the ground they stood on. I walked toward them slow, measured, every step reminding me of past encounters where hesitation meant death. My voice cut through the air like a blade. "You boys picked the wrong house. You've got 5 seconds to explain who sent you." The tall one smirked, mistaking my calm for fear. "The HOA president told us you've been ignoring notices. We're here to make sure you comply." He didn't know the kind of men I'd stared down before. Warlords with militias, mercenaries with blood on their hands. Compared to them, he was a child playing soldier. I told Sarah to go inside and lock the door. She knew better than to argue. She knew the storm was about to break. I stepped closer, my voice low enough to make him lean in. "Touch my wife again, and you won't be walking out of here." His laugh was hollow, a cover for the unease creeping into his eyes. He refused to give ID. That sealed it. Real officers don't deny identification. And right there I knew they weren't just trespassing. They were impersonating law enforcement. A felony. The laughter faltered. My stance shifted. Feet planted, shoulders squared, eyes locked. The same stance I used in dusty alleys overseas when things were about to go violent. They felt it. Predators recognize predators, and suddenly their confidence cracked. The leader jabbed a finger at me, trying to wrestle back control. "You think you can ignore HOA rules? You've been warned about your truck, your fence, and your military dogs. We're here to enforce compliance." A dark chuckle escaped me. It wasn't amusement. It was the sound of a man who's heard bigger threats from people who didn't live to make a second one. "First of all," I said, calm but razor sharp, "my truck is parked legally. My fence is within city code. And those military dogs, they're service animals protected by the ADA. Second," I stepped closer, forcing him back a step, "you're trespassing and impersonating officers. That's 10 years in prison if you're lucky." The short one, eager to impress his fake brothers in arms, barked back, "You can't threaten us. We'll cuff you right here." He fumbled with the Velcro strap of his belt and pulled out cuffs so flimsy they looked like toys. I almost pitied him. Almost. That was it. The last shred of patience evaporated. Training took over. My left hand clamped onto his wrist, twisting sharply until the cuffs clattered to the ground. In the same breath, my right elbow drove into his jaw, a clean strike, controlled but brutal. He collapsed like a rag doll, groaning into the grass. The second lunged, baton raised, wrong move. I sidestepped, seized his arm mid-swing, and used his momentum to flip him over my shoulder. His body smacked against the concrete driveway with a thud that made the gathering neighbors fall silent. Dot. The leader froze, torn between fight and flight. His voice cracked as he tried to salvage the act. "You're assaulting officers!" he shouted. I stepped so close he could smell the sweat on me, my words low and venomous. "No, I'm stopping 3 criminals from assaulting my wife. Big difference." That's when Sarah reappeared, bruised cheek glowing red, phone in hand, recording every second, her voice. He cut through the air. "Already called the sheriff. They're on their way." The leader's bravado drained. He cursed under his breath and tried to bolt for the SUV. Not a chance. I grabbed the back of his vest, yanked him off balance, and pinned him against the hood with my knee in his back. He squirmed, but training doesn't fail. He was nothing but dead weight, pretending to be a warrior. Dot. Minutes later, the flash of sirens painted the street red and blue. Deputies poured out, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them," they barked. I raised mine instantly, stepping back. Sarah pointed. "Those are the guys. They hit me. They claimed to be cops." The deputies swarmed. Fake vests ripped away, toy weapons scattered. The imposters cuffed for real this time, groaning as the weight of their situation crushed them. Under pressure, the leader cracked. His words spilled like rotten fruit. The HOA president had paid them cash to teach us a lesson. Dot. And that's when I realized this wasn't just harassment, this was conspiracy. At the sheriff's station, the imposters looked nothing like the swaggering bullies who had stormed my yard. Stripped of their fake armor, their shoulders sagged under real steel cuffs. Their uniforms were stuffed into plastic evidence bags, cheap nylon, stitched-on badges, toy-grade cuffs. Their eyes darted around the interrogation room like cornered rats. And soon enough, they sang, Dot under questioning. The truth unraveled faster than I expected. They weren't ex-cops, weren't security, weren't even hired professionals. They were thugs, drifters picked up by the HOA president, Karen Ellis, a woman notorious in the neighborhood for her iron grip on trivial rules. Karen had paid them cash to rough me up, scare my wife, and remind us who ran the block. Her words, not mine. Dot. The deputies turned to me. "Do you want to press charges?" one asked. I didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. Impersonating officers is a felony. Assaulting my wife is going to cost them dearly." But Karen wasn't the type to cower. By sundown, she filed a lawsuit against me. She claimed I used excessive force and damaged the reputation of the HOA. Her lawyer even spun the tale that her hired muscle were contracted security officers, and I had overreacted. When my attorney read the paperwork, he nearly laughed. "This is a gift," he said, sliding the stack across his desk. "We'll countersue for harassment, assault, conspiracy. And since Sarah recorded the whole thing, the evidence isn't just strong, it's bulletproof." I looked over at Sarah. She still had a faint mark on her cheek, a bruise from the slap. My fists clenched, but she laid her hand over mine, calm, steady, unshaken. That's when I realized Karen hadn't just picked a fight with me, she picked a fight with us, and we weren't backing down. Court arrived like a storm. Karen Ellis strutted in wearing a tailored blazer, smug smile plastered across her face as if she owned the courthouse. Beside her, her lawyer whispered frantically, stacking papers like bricks in a wall he thought would hold. On our side, Sarah squeezed my hand. Our attorney stood tall, calm, eyes sharp. Dot. The judge wasted no time. "Plaintiff, present your case." Karen's lawyer tried spinning fiction into law. He argued I had brutally assaulted licensed security agents. He claimed Sarah had provoked them by recording. He called their fake badges industry standard. His words echoed in the courtroom, hollow and desperate. Dot. Then came our turn. Sarah's video played across the big screen. Silence fell. There it was, Sarah standing in our yard, phone knocked away, the slap across her face, me stepping into frame, my warning, the pathetic fake cuffs, the takedown, every second captured in perfect clarity. Neighbors gasped. Even the judge leaned forward. "These men," the judge said, voice heavy with disdain, "are criminals. And you, Mrs. Ellis, hired them." He slammed his gavel. "Your lawsuit is dismissed. Furthermore, I'm sanctioning you for abuse of the legal system." Karen's smugness cracked, her lips twitching as the blood drained from her face. Our attorney rose. "Your Honor, we are filing a counterclaim today. Conspiracy to commit assault. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, HOA harassment. My clients deserve restitution. The judge nodded. Karen sank into her chair. For the first time, she realized her empire of intimidation was crumbling, brick by brick. By the end of the trial, Karen Ellis wasn't the feared tyrant of our neighborhood anymore. She was just another bully stripped of power. The judge not only threw out her case but held her personally liable for damages. The HOA board members who once cowered under her glare wouldn't even meet her eyes as they filed out. Her reign ended that day, not with applause, but with silence. As for the three imposters, they didn't leave the sheriff's station as free men. They were charged with multiple felonies: impersonating officers, assault, conspiracy, bail denied. Their swaggering arrogance from that morning dissolved into the cold reality of years behind bars. The sheriff himself shook my hand outside the courthouse. "Good thing you kept your cool," he said. "Most people would have frozen up. You probably saved your wife from something much worse." His grip was firm, his eyes steady. He wasn't just congratulating me. He was acknowledging the line I had walked, the fine edge between restraint and unleashing everything the seal inside me still remembered. That night, Sarah and I sat on the porch, our dogs at our feet. The garden hose lay coiled beside the flower beds she'd been tending when it all began. She leaned against me, tired but unbroken. "Do you think it's over?" she asked softly. I looked out at the quiet street, the same one where three fakes had strutted like kings that morning. "For them, yes," I said. "But people like Karen? There's always another scheme, another play for power. That's who they are." She nodded, her hand finding mine again. And for the first time since my service ended, I felt it. The war wasn't behind me. It had just changed battlefields. The weeks that followed were a lesson in how fast a tyrant can fall once their mask is ripped away. Karen Ellis had spent years lording over the neighborhood like a petty queen, weaponizing fine print and intimidation to bend people to her will. But after the trial, her throne crumbled beneath her. Word spread faster than wildfire. Neighbors who once whispered behind curtains now spoke openly at block meetings. Stories of her threats, her harassment, her backroom deals, all came spilling into the light. She wasn't feared anymore. She was despised. The HOA board convened an emergency session. I didn't attend. I had no interest in watching her squirm, but Sarah did. She came home that night with eyes wide and voice buzzing with energy. "You should have seen it," she said. "They voted her out unanimously. No debate, not even her so-called allies defended her. She tried yelling, tried threatening lawsuits again, but nobody cared. It was over." Karen moved out within a month. The for sale sign planted in her manicured lawn was the final proof that her empire had collapsed. Rumor had it she relocated 2 counties over, trying to rebuild her life where no one knew her name. But around here, she was nothing more than a cautionary tale. Parents told their kids, "Don't grow up to be a Karen Ellis." As for the imposters, justice came swift and heavy. The DA threw the book at them, impersonating officers, assault, conspiracy, harassment. 2 took plea deals, facing years behind bars. The leader, the tall one with the fake badge and the loud mouth, tried to fight it. He lost. When the gavel came down, he looked at me in the gallery, eyes burning with hatred. But it didn't matter. His fate was sealed, and mine was freedom. Life slowly returned to normal. Sarah healed, her bruise fading, though the memory lingered longer. Our neighbors stopped by more often, some offering casseroles, others sheepishly admitting they'd been too scared to stand up to Karen before. I didn't hold it against them. Fear is a powerful leash. But now they saw what happens when you cut it. One evening, Sarah and I sat on the porch again, dogs sprawled at our feet, the sunset washing the street in gold. She leaned against me and whispered, "You know, you could have lost it back there. Gone too far. But you didn't." I thought about that. About the fine line I'd walked. About the training buried deep inside me. The instinct to end threats before they grew. I squeezed her hand. "I wasn't fighting a war this time," I said. "I was protecting home." And that was the truth. In war, you fight for orders, for strategy, for missions scribbled on maps. But here, in this quiet patch of suburbia, I fought for something greater. For Sarah, for peace, for the promise that our home would never again be a battlefield for someone else's power games. The imposters thought they could scare us. Karen thought she could control us. They were wrong. What they found instead was a husband who'd traded deserts and oceans for gardens and fences, but who hadn't forgotten what it takes to protect what matters most. And as the cicadas hummed and the dogs stirred in the cooling night air, I realized something else. My SEAL days weren't over. They had just taken on a new mission, keeping the wolves from ever thinking our door was theirs to knock on.